The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Well, let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things E-mini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Bork. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Thursday, 19th day of November, 2020. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. If you can't see the screen I have up, go to our homepage at CFRN.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered in about 30 seconds. That will give you one-click access to the show each and every day. On the days you're out of the office or away from the desktop, not to worry. Point any internet-connected browser to cfrn.net/live, and there you'll find a live, real-time simulcast of the show as it unfolds. You just won't have access to the chat box. Let's open with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, today we will remember to put you before all things. Lord, before tiredness, you are energy. Before stress, you are peace. Lord, before need, you are the gift. Before decisions, you are the truth. Before toil, you are rest. Today, we will put our energy, our peace, your gift, your truth, and your rest before our working day, that we may not go in our own strength, but be led by your Spirit. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, happy Thursday. Let's take a look at the numbers from around the world. These are the cash markets, the indices as they're called. Starting here in the U.S., currently the Dow down 109 points, NASDAQ up 71, S&P 500 down 2.5, and the Russell 2000 down just over a point. In the commodity basket, crude oil down 31 cents, trading 41.51 last. Gold down $15.70, trading 18.5820 last. And silver down 49 cents, trading 23.95 last. It's a drop of about 2%. It's also a drop on a futures contract of about $2,500 per contract. A $1 move in silver is $5,000, so being down 0.49849, call it 50 cents on the day. It's $2,500. In the Asian markets at the close, Nikkei down 93 points, Shanghai up 15, Hang Seng down 187. In the European markets at the close, FTSE down 50, DAX down 115, and the CAC down 36. That makes for a mixed day in Asia, a red day in the UK, and due to the NASDAQ, it's a mixed day here in the US with the three other major indices in the red. Again, the Dow down 109, S&P down 2.5, Russell 2000 down 1.25, but the NASDAQ up 71. So it's a mixed Radio Thursday here in the US of A. I believe I heard Michael. Michael, is that you?
Yes, it is me.
How you doing, buddy?
A little better than yesterday so far.
Ah, that's awesome. That's an answer to prayer.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll shift it over to Michael right now, and he'll do a recap of what happened in the live training room. I'll be back. We'll take a look at the Concierge Trade Alerts, the Logic 247 alerts, and today's Thursday, Dr. Tom Day, so he'll be joining us here at the bottom of the hour. So, Michael, it's all yours, locked and loaded.
All right, thanks. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Today is the 19th day of November, 2020. If you're going to read the spreadsheet, you can read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today, we lost 8 ticks in the euro, we made 9 ticks in gold, and made 18 ticks on the ES. So we were plus 265 on the morning session. Today it took 7 minutes and 1 trade to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we were up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 7 trades. So on the month now, we're at $5,865. That's over 14 trading days, averaging $418 per contract per trading day. And we are now at day number 192 since I had my last down day in the room. On the year, we're at 93,553. That's over 217 trading days, averaging $431 per contract per 2-hour trading day. Okay. Now, if you've not taken a free trial with us and you want to take a free trial with us, go to the home page here at CFRN.net, or you can go to EminiFuturesTrading.com, and there will be information about how to take the free trial. Okay. Just follow the instructions. It'll walk you right through it all. All right. All right. Now, let's get into what happened today. It was really a slow day today. Not a lot of trade opportunities. We took what we could right here in gold. This was our first trade in gold. It was right here. We picked up 4 ticks. Now, we didn't miss any trades in all this. Well, there were YBR trades, but let's not look at those right now. We picked up 1 more tick here to put us at +5. I missed 1 trade there and picked up 4 more ticks there to put us at +9 on gold on the morning session. I missed 1 right there toward the end. And that was pretty much it. That was the day in gold. It was, well, the euro was even worse. We had 1 trade right here. You can see the whole euro like this, including the afternoon session. We had 1 trade here, stopped us out pretty much to the tick, then it went up and would have been a break-even trade for me if I'd have stayed in it. Did have some nice YBR trades with the euro, though. Well, 2 YBR trades on the euro. But crude oil, hang on. Yeah, we didn't do anything with crude. See how choppy it was all through here? I didn't want to touch crude today. I was watching it, and it's just not giving me any solid indication of what it's going to do. Like right now, I think it's going to drop to 41.57. Did the indicators agree with that? No. So we didn't have agreement with the indicators and everything else. Now the ES we traded a few times today. We started out, that's where we got our goal for the day, was on the ES. First trade of the day, right out of the gate, right there. Picked up 8 ticks on that one. I missed this one. Excuse me. There's some YBR trades in here. I missed that one. And see, we had to wait for a trend. That was the thing. All right. We picked up 8 on the first one. We picked up 6 on this one right here. Okay. And we picked up 4 more on this one right here. And we missed one there. And that was it for the morning session. During the break, there was a trade there, a trade there, and a trade there. And that was it for the whole morning. It was a really, really slow morning. And we did have some news, but the actual news that we did get, it was Philly Fed manufacturing was 26.3. They're expecting 22. Unemployment claims 742. They're expecting 707. Existing home sales 6.85 million. They're expecting 6.45. Natural gas 31 billion. They're expecting 22. And that was it for the morning session. Okay, so here we'll go back to the spreadsheet one more time. If you're going to read it, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today we lost 8 ticks in the euro, made 9 in gold, made 18 on the ES, put us at plus 265 on the morning session. Today it took 7 minutes in one trade to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 7 trades. So on a month now, we're at $5,865, and that was over 14 trading days, averaging $418 per contract per 2-hour trading day. Right now on day number 192, I'm getting my goal consecutive days of getting my goal. And on the year now, we're 93,553. That's over 217 trading days, averaging $431 per contract per 2-hour trading day. Okay, now I gotta fix this formula. See if I copy that one. Paste it here. Yeah, that's okay. It made the changes in the actual row numbers for me. So if you were adding 1 contract a month and doing everything exactly the way that I did in the room, you would now be at $601,271. Yeah, and I missed most of the trades. Let's go over here. You need day trading futures. Okay, to take a free trial with us, if you want to take a free trial with us, go to the homepage at CFRN.net. And right down here, it says free 5-day trial. It says it all over this page, but click on any of the free trial links and you'll be sent a link to get into the next session. To get into the free trial, 5 consecutive business days. Okay, you can also go to EminiFuturesTrading.com and sign up for the Logic 24/7 over there. And I think we're offering a free trial with the Logic 24/7 right now too. But that was it. That was the morning session. It was a really slow day today. It was a good day to learn, really. And there wasn't a lot of opportunity to learn from, but when it's going really slow and I can talk slower, and I was feeling pretty good this morning. So, we'll see what the afternoon brings, because the afternoon is where it really, the fever starts and it starts to go downhill quick. But, that's it for the morning session for me. I am going to pass it back out to Fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, Studio A overlooking South Mountain. Dwayne, I see you already. There it is. Excellent.
And so, recap of the recap.
7 minutes, 1 trade, $100 contract.
Good job.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Another bell 192.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's day number 192 in a row.
I know. And he trooped. The trooper kept trooping right through the COVID. That deserves a bell all into itself. Good job.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm hoping by Monday I'll be all done with this. I'll go get another test on Monday and hopefully it'll be negative.
And then, I guess the way it works is with some people, or is it with all people, you develop the antibodies, and so you don't get it a second time, right?
Well, I think there's a time period where you won't get it a second time. I've been told it's like 6 months. You're good for like 6 months. I'm not sure though, but I didn't go get any shots or anything like that. Like my neighbor, he's in the hospital right now. He's going to be there till Sunday at least. And he had all the shots that they give you to fight the COVID and all that. And I just thought I'd treat it like any other sickness, but just isolate myself.
Right.
And so.
They didn't give you any of the hydroxychloroquine or any of that stuff?
I didn't take any of that. No, Jada's been giving me herbal stuff, and I don't know if it's had an effect because she's been giving it to. She gives me 2 piles of pills a day.
Right.
One in the morning and one at night. And I think in the afternoon when it wears off is when the fevers start to come back. So I think it is doing something. And late at night, like 1 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock this morning, I was up and I was feeling pretty good. And then, but I couldn't get tired. So there might be something else in there. I couldn't fall asleep. And there might be something else in there that's got caffeine in it or something. Because, I've had 4 hours of sleep in the last 2 days.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's not good. Well, try to get some rest. Hopefully you'll be able to fall asleep.
I know. Well, that's what I'm going to try to do right now. Because everybody's asleep right now. And Jada's going to be leaving to go donate to the food pantry, and yeah. So I'll be kind of alone.
I'm going to suggest we take a pass on the workshop tonight.
Okay.
Because
that's fine.
I know that you aren't up for it, and I don't know if you hear it in my voice, but there's something
You're starting to get a little something too.
Something under the hood, yeah. So,
Okay.
anyway.
All right. So we'll just skip it for tonight.
Yeah, we'll send an email out. I mean, anybody that wants to watch a workshop, we've got how many hundreds?
Oh yeah, about 500
Yeah.
total.
Probably about right. All right, well, take care of yourself, man.
Okay. All right,
All
Dwayne.
right, I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you.
All right, guys, here we are on the daily chart of the S&P 500 E-mini Futures. We had an inside day of an inside day, and then yesterday we were having an inside day, and then finally it broke loose. And last night in the discussion group, when I put out the Concierge Trade Alerts, I said taking out the low of yesterday's session would be important, and it did give us some movement in some of the markets, but just a little bit ago this daily candle was a doji, and so we're still waiting for price to work its way down to this trend line to see if it's going to hold. And if it takes it a bit to get there, if we continue to consolidate here, the BBC will rise to the trend line, and then when price comes down, it will hit the trend line and the BBC, and that should be good for a nice bounce back up to challenge. This right here is the all-time historic high, closing high. This is the all-time intraday high that happened on November 9th. The all-time closing high in the S&P 500, November 16th. There's the 17th, the 18th, 19th, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, today. And we're just got a little doji going on. As far as Logic 247, we are in week number 120. This sideways consolidation has not created a lot of opportunity in the larger time frame. All of the alerts, both Concierge and Logic 247, are based on 30-minute chart. And Michael has been able to, despite being sick, find opportunities on the smaller time frames. We use the range chart, a 4-tick range chart, which is not the same as a 4-tick chart. That would be too fast. But a range chart simply means every candle on the chart is the exact same height. And so on the 4-tick range, every candle is exactly 4 ticks tall. But our indicators, our strategy, the methodology, everything is the same whether you're on a daily chart or 4-tick range chart. The only thing that changes with the alerts is when you go to the larger time frame. Of course, you're looking for a bigger move, and there's additional risk required to achieve the bigger move. So this week, week 120, we've only had a total of 21 alerts issued. 2 never triggered. That gave us 19 actionable alerts. Out of those 19, so far 2 are stopped out based on not risking more than $300 per contract per trade, using the 3-step methodology that we teach based simply on market structure. So 11% of actionable alerts stopped out. A typical number is 20% over the last 120 weeks. That's the average. Now, the Logic 247 alerts, those come out around the clock, 24/7, well, 24, 5.5. The only day the futures markets are closed is Saturday, because they open Sunday night, and that's when the Logic 2-4 channel opens, is Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, and remains open until Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern. And so last night's Concierge Trade Alerts, if you want to grab a screenshot, you can do that. Got about at 6:25 p.m. Eastern on the S&P. Consider being long at 35.97 and or only looking for long trades at that number. Or if the market heads the other way, going to be short at 35.52 and or only looking for short trades at that number or below. Same on the Dow, Russell, Crude, NQ, gold, silver. Now, in really active markets, we'll often see two-sided action, which means we could trigger on the Concierge in the long side, and then some news comes out, or somebody puts out a tweet that unsettles the world, the market swings in the other direction. Okay? All right, so you've had time to grab a screenshot if you wanted one. So here we are, back to the little doji on the daily. And look at the range. It wasn't until yesterday afternoon, during the show yesterday, we had an inside day here. Tuesday was an inside day of Monday, and during the show, Wednesday was an inside day of Tuesday. And so the range today got a low of 35.42, a high of 35.73. Let's go to the 30-minute chart. And Dr. Tom is supposed to join us here at the bottom of the hour. So let me check and see if he's here yet. Okay, not yet. So I'll keep an eye out for you, Doctor. Okie doke. So 3610 is a this week weekly trading zone. 3610/11. And then this is last week's zone, 1617, which is where the market has consolidated. You know, it's just when it looks like we're going to get a move to the downside, we go right back into that area. And then we try to tiptoe out, and support continues to be support, drives us right back up. That was the next to the highest weekly trading zone last week. And then price finally got below the BBC, took out this swing low and this swing low, made it down to last week's weekly trading zone at 35.57/58. Now this week, the zone below 3610 is 35.63. I need to update this. There's been so much consolidation, there wasn't much point in updating it. So here's the 63.64 weekly zone for this week. And then below that for this week, last week was 32.33. Not much change. It's now 33.34. Fix that. $35, $33, $34. And 57, 58, that was last week. And this one is 33.63/64. Last night's Concierge Trade Alert for the S&P was to consider being short 35.52. Well, 52. Let's find it. There we go. Close enough. 35.52. And from 52, we put in a swing low at 35.44. So that's an 8-point drop at $50 a point. It's $400 per contract traded. Price got back above the trigger, took another drop. This time we made it down to 42 and a half. So that gives us 9.5 points, $50 a point. And then important prices, important areas. We trigger one more time. This time it's more difficult in that when we rally up to the BBC, we expect it to be good resistance until proven otherwise. When price pulls back, we expect it to be good support until proven otherwise. So here you've got blue and climbing. Now this green line, it's called the BBC in case you're new, stands for bull bear cross. Real simple. When price gets below it, we're bearish, we anticipate lower prices. When price gets above it, we're bullish, we anticipate higher prices. Lower prices, higher prices. And so this red and falling supports being short in the market. And of course blue and climbing, that represents bullishness or higher prices. Once price crosses above the BBC, it will typically, climb the back of blue and climbing. And then the first sign of weakness in the market is when price gets below blue and climbing. Now it's at the BBC and we just consolidate, and red and falling wins the battle here. Our sellers win the battle, and that takes us a pretty brisk move. This was the closing 30 minutes from yesterday, and that's what took us from that inside day status to actually looking like the market went somewhere. And there's Mr. Wonderful. Dr. Tom, let me get your mic open. Looks like you're muted on your end. So I just need you to unmute yourself. Can you hear me, Dr. Son? Okay, now you got an open mic. Dr. Tom, you're live, but I can't hear you. You got an open mic both on my end and your end. But I can't hear you. That's very strange. Let me send you a text message.
Yeah, we're good.
There you are. Okay.
Good. There's all this tech stuff. There's a setting in the go to webinar,
Mm-hmm.
that you also have to set them. Even though my computer's set to talk on this mic,
Right.
I had to set it on go to webinar also.
Gotcha. Yep. So many
Life
buttons.
was once so simple.
Yeah. So many buttons.
My
so
mom
many
used to
dials.
say, life was once so simple, but I don't remember when. You know. So how are you today?
Hanging in there. It's been a
Are you gonna?
unusual week in the markets. Michael got the COVID, so we just been
Oh,
taking
no.
it one day at a time. Yeah.
So we're all praying for him, right, folks?
Amen.
Out there.
Yeah. He's said he's feeling better today.
Good. Wow. Are you going to be taking off on Thanksgiving and acting like a human being and resting?
Yes. Yes, we will be closed for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
What about you?
I think I'm going to eat. I'm going to eat a duck.
Can you eat a duck?
I don't like turkey, so we do duck.
Interesting. So what's the
Yep.
law in Florida about gathering for Thanksgiving? Allowed, not allowed?
Oh, we're not communists here, so they haven't said a word about it.
Really?
You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some pretty draconian things happening in a lot of the states.
Especially California.
Yeah.
I found out something. You may already know this, but the Whitmer and Newsom are the two just the worst governors in the state as far as playing petty dictator, right?
Right.
And I found out that Gavin Newsom is Nancy Pelosi's nephew.
Right. Yeah. I know. I was a little
So
surprised by that too.
He comes by his dishonesty, honestly. The guy is he thinks he's going to become president someday, which is like really crazy because after, you know, the state that he has to have, that every Democrat president has to have, he's not going to have it because his own people are trying to do a recall election on him right now. You know, you can only have like a few people over to your house for Thanksgiving, and it has to be for 2 hours, and it has to be outside, and if anybody uses a bathroom, you have to run in and go and disinfect the whole bathroom before anybody else uses the bathroom. It's just like, our house used to be our castle. At least what we did in the privacy of our own home was up to us,
Right.
you know? But now they're trying to regulate how we eat Thanksgiving dinner.
Well, Natalka says that Pennsylvania just announced you have to wear a mask in your own home.
So what are they going to do? Come around to your house and inspect and arrest you if you're not wearing a mask? It's
Well, I think the governor of Oregon said that she was depending on the state troopers in Oregon to do exactly that. If it looks like they're supposed to be patrolling and looking for what looks to be any kind of, you know, gathering of people, and yeah, exactly that, knock on the door. And
okay, so let me get this right. You can't have friends over for Thanksgiving dinner in Oregon, but you can now do meth
Yeah.
and heroin.
Right. So if they kick the door down and you're eating turkey with your family, you get a citation. But if you're over on the couch, not hungry because you're smoking meth, that's okay.
Are we still in the same universe, or are we
You know,
like an alternative universe?
2020 has, without a doubt, been the strangest year in the history of mankind.
Yeah, I
recorded
mean, some
history
people are
anyway.
using 2020 as a curse word now. What the 2020 is going on, you know?
Makes sense. Makes sense.
So I'm starting to believe that there may have been some sort of a shift in a black hole someplace, and we're actually not really in our universe anymore. We're in an alternative universe where everything's upside down. Anyway, it's a theory.
Boy, I'll tell you.
Can we talk about something that's a little more
Absolutely
understandable? Because I don't understand being arrested for turkey and being allowed to do hard drugs. So this we can make sense of. Have you been hearing much about the war on cash?
Well, I know that we've talked about it here on the show, and yeah, it seems to be an ongoing theme here in America, and I assume worldwide. Did you have slides today? I'll send you the charts.
No slides today.
Okay.
But I still have my big mouth, so we're good.
All right.
I want to take a little walk down history lane. What percentage of your audience do you think is probably like 30 or under?
Probably very few. Maybe 10%, maybe. Yeah, probably 10%.
Well, those people won't remember what I'm about to talk about, but the rest of us will. 20, 25, 30 years ago, you go into a grocery store and you don't have cash or enough cash. You get to the register and you're short. You didn't whip out your credit card because they wouldn't take it, right?
I'm sorry.
It just
Say that again now?
Grocery stores would not take
Oh, yeah.
credit
I
cards.
remember the first time I walked into a grocery store. I remember it clearly. There was a special aisle for people that wanted to use a credit card. And that was just a really foreign thought that someone would want or need, to buy their groceries on credit. We live in a much different world now where, everybody uses a card for everything and then hopefully pay it off at the end of the month. Or it's a debit
and there
card.
there was sound logic behind that. It's like you buy things on credit that you need to pay for over time, but you're not going to be buying them every week. But groceries you buy it every week. So if you're so hard up that you have to use your credit card for groceries, there's going to be problems. So anyway, it just wasn't allowed. But I remember, wanting to use a check sometimes. And they said, well, go to the office and get signed up. I said, signed up for what? Oh, well, you have to be approved to be able to use checks. And so there was a couple of different grocery stores I went to. They did a little credit check on me, and a week later they said, okay, we'll accept your checks now. So that's one extreme. Now we're at the total other side where they're encouraging you to use checks, and a lot of stores have signs up saying, please, no checks, only credit and debit.
Mm-hmm.
And others don't say please, they're just saying cash is not accepted here.
Right.
So that's a huge swing in a period of 30 years. But there's a reason behind it. It's being pushed by the government. And I always have to say this, I'm not anti-government. I'm just anti when the government gets so far away from the Constitution that they're controlling every area of our lives and spying on us and know every move that we make. Then I'm anti that kind of government. And
Yes.
I've kind of learned something through all my years in financial services, seeing when the government starts to push something and encourage people to do it, and then having lived long enough to see the results of those policies. For instance, the IRA. Seemed like a great idea when they first came out with it. But it would take a long time to explain. But basically, the IRA benefits the government. It doesn't really benefit the citizen that uses it, because I've done the calculations on it. A typical IRA that somebody starts when they're 30 years old and starts drawing from when they retire. If they took that same money, instead of contributing to an IRA, and just went ahead and paid the cash on it and invested the money, and just nothing with huge returns, just reasonable returns, as opposed to putting it into the IRA and taking it off their income tax. So it's, you know, the deduction, which is the main reason the way they sell it. And then you make your money tax deferred. Now, you don't make so much money in an IRA by and large as if you're investing individually, because they have a lot of restrictions on how you can invest. Mm-hmm. But in my assumptions, I said, okay, you made the same money in the IRA as you did outside. By the time that money grew tax deferred, and you eventually took it out and paid the taxes on it, you would net more if you had just invested it yourself and paid the taxes when you earned it and invested it, and the money would grow far more. So it doesn't really benefit you. The only exception is a Roth IRA, where you pay taxes first and then you put it in the IRA, and then the money accumulates tax-free. Big difference between tax-free and tax-deferred. Like, you know, gold actually sort of acts like an IRA because it's growing and growing, but you're not paying any taxes on it. So anyway, that's just one example. I could give you a dozen of them. And I've just come to the conclusion that when the government encourages you to do anything financially, that if you run the other direction, you're going to be much better off. Okay. And this includes the whole thing with cash. The shift we're seeing in our economy, the way we do business, is basically driven by the government, by the policies that they set. They don't want cash. They want to get rid of it because they want to track everything that we do. You remember those movies? We used to have these mystery movies, and they're trying to track this criminal, and some cyber cop is over there on the computer saying, okay, well, he just bought a Starbucks at Grand Central Station, and oops, he got on the subway, so he's probably heading to this and that. And they catch the cop because they're tracking his every move in real time by his use of his credit cards or his debit card or whatever.
Or pinging off the cell phone.
That's not really possible. I'm sorry?
And pinging off of the cell towers and et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah, tracking his phone and all. That's not possible in real life. I mean, you can do that, but it's not real time like that. They can't just hack into any traffic cam whenever they want to, or anybody's private security camera. None of that's really real, but that's what they're working toward. But if they can track every expenditure you make, then they know where you've been, when you were there, even if it's after the fact. It doesn't have to be real time. They can know everything about your life, because you can't go anywhere without buying food or buying gasoline or paying tolls or whatever.
Right.
So that's the ultimate goal. Now, you know me, I'm a gold bug, so I've got the answer. The founding fathers said that, you know, gold was freedom. Gold was liberty. And it's the one thing that they can't track. Now, right now, they can't track cash as such, because it's a proxy for gold. It's not gold, but it is private. So I can go buy a lawnmower from somebody, and the government's not going to know about it. But those days are going to be gone. I don't know when, but they're definitely working toward it, and it's accelerating. And now you can do practically everything on a card, whichever kind of card.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can go buy a candy bar from a vending machine with a card.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how much easier is that for the vendor on the machine? He doesn't have to go and stock the machine with change to make change with.
Right.
He doesn't have to go once every day or every week, depending on how busy it is, to take the excess cash out and so on. Everything's done electronically. He controls it through the internet. Remember the days when stores said, no credit cards, and then eventually they said, okay, you can use a credit card, but you have to pay an extra 3%, because most cards, it was 2.5% to 3.5% discount that the credit card company got. And so that discouraged use of credit cards. Or to make up for the loss of that fee they had to pay, they would say, minimum credit card purchase $25 or $50. Mm-hmm. We used to see those signs all the time. Do you see them anymore?
Nope, not so much.
Maybe in Dogville, Arkansas, where, with 250 population.
I'm trying to think of when the last time I saw one, and I honestly don't remember the last time I saw one.
Yeah. So basically, you can do everything with credit cards. I mean, the first night we had our first class at the Bible college, I told the students, you can pay your tuition online, and I showed on the screen, how to get there and everything like that. Or if you're paying by check, make it out too, and so on. And one of the younger students, he was not that young, he was like 20 something. He says, what do you mean by paying by check? I said, you're kidding, right? He says, no, what do you mean by that? I said, it's a piece of paper that you write on and sign your name, and you give it to somebody, and they give you stuff for it. He said, that's crazy. Why would anybody do that? That was where his head was at. This is a kid in college. He said he'd never had a checkbook. He'd only ever had a debit card on his bank account. Never used a check in his life. So we're getting rid of checks. We're getting rid of cash. What's the end game? Well, let me jump ahead a little bit. All right. Here's what I believe that the government is moving toward. They want to have 3, 3, and 3. Okay. They want to consolidate all the banks into 3 huge super banks. And they used 2008 to move that goal way forward, because they told certain banks, well, you have to agree to be bought out by this other bigger bank. And they said, no, we don't need to. We're doing fine financially. Well, then we'll shut your license down. So when the guy who has the ability to flip the switch on you tells you, you do this, you do that, you do it. So in addition to all the banks that went out of business, we also had a lot of banks that were perfectly healthy banks that were forced to be absorbed by other banks. My local bank that's closest to me, I was pastoring a church out here, and we had a bank account there, and we opened a personal account too. I have had 6 different checkbooks on that same account over the last 20 years. The bank's been bought out 5 different times. And so we're losing banks to, they're just going into business, but we're also losing banks to consolidation. And I believe that the goal is to have no more than 3 big banks. Same thing with insurance companies. And same thing with IRA custodians. Now there's thousands and thousands of people who administer IRAs, banks, brokerage firms, places like that.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't realize that that bank or that brokerage firm doesn't actually have custody of their money. The money's there in their bank accounts, but the custodian of it is a really big company. And there's only a few dozen custodial companies in the country. And so if you look at your statement, you'll see, such and such so-and-so IRA, and it's going to be one of these trusts, FBO for benefit of, and it doesn't matter whether you're Edward Jones or Bank of America, it's this custodian that actually owns your account. If you buy real estate in it, it's titled in the name of the custodian, not in your name. So those are going to be consolidated as well. Now, which is it easier for the government to take over? Tens of thousands of banks, thousands of insurance companies, a few dozen custodians, or what if there's only 3 of each?
Right.
That'd be a whole lot easier, right?
Yeah.
They first consolidate them into one, and then they take control of it. Okay. So, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But when I'm on
I was just agreeing with you.
Okay. So we went back in history a little ways. Now we've had a peek at the future, and this is Uncle Tom's future. I mean, am I a prophet? No, I'm not a prophet. And I don't read tea leaves, and I don't use a crystal ball. But I mean, I can look at the tree and see if the leaves are blowing, and I know there's some wind, right?
Right.
And I see these.
I've never seen the wind, but I've seen the effects of the wind. It's a lyric from a song, but anyway.
And it's a good illustration too of God working in our lives. We don't always see Him, but we see what He's doing, and we know that He's there. He's working on our behalf. But this is the government working against us, because the right and proper goal of government is one thing, and that's keeping the people safe. But the lust, if I could use, can I say a lust on this show?
Sure, go ahead.
It's a Christian show. Okay. What the government lusts for, and we're not, there are some public servants. We have some people in Washington and our state houses that are good people that really do have the best interest of the people at heart, but they are so outnumbered by the people who lust for power. People have this mistaken impression that, we've never seen anybody go to Washington that doesn't come back a millionaire. So we think, well, they're just all in it for the money. I don't think so. I think their actions prove that they're much more interested in power and control than they are in money. Because if you have the power, then you got all the money you want.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily work the other way around. Money doesn't always buy power. So that's the end game. Now, let's look at how they're accomplishing it. Limits on ATM withdrawals. Okay, we've learned to live with that, and we've seen them get smaller in most cases, and in some cases, if there's something big going on, they'll even temporarily lower it down to $100 maximum a day you can withdraw. But most banks is around $300, but it used to be much higher. What about teller withdrawals? Well, they used to tell us if you're withdrawing $10,000 or even depositing $10,000 in cash, they had to fill out a form. You know what the form's called?
Yeah, it's called suspicious SART, suspicious activity report.
Yes. Why is it suspicious if I want to deposit $10,000 in my bank account, or if I've got $100,000 in there and I want to take $10,000 out? What's suspicious about that? Well, that number has been getting smaller. They won't tell you. You go in and talk to your banker and say, what's the amount of money I can deposit or withdraw without, generating some kind of report to the government. And they won't tell you. They'll say, well, it's always been $10,000. But I've gotten to the place where I know some bankers where I'm a little more friendly with them, and they'll tell me privately, this is several years ago, it's really $5,000 now. And then more recently, it's around $2,500. I mean, you are suspected of being a, what is it? I don't know, a drug dealer, a money launderer. Terrorist. If you take out more than $2,500 from terrorist, that's a good one, And so they use that fear to justify their unconstitutional activities. Let me tell you a story about a guy named Eddie. True story. Don't remember his last name, but this is in Liverpool. So I know it was in England. Liverpool. He goes to his bank and he wants to withdraw. It was in pounds, of course, but it was the equivalent of $9,000 cash. And they said no. He said, "What do you mean no? I've got like $50,000 in the account." They said, "No, you can't withdraw that." And he insisted. And so finally they said, "Well, why do you need $9,000? Why can't you just use a check?" And he says, "It's none of your business." And they said, "Well, then we're not going to let you take the money. We're not going to let you take your own money unless you jump through our hoops." So finally, he said, "Look, my mom lent me $9,000. Again, it's in pounds. I'm just converting it. Okay.
Right.
A couple of years ago, and she gave me cash, and I told her, I've got the money. I'm going to pay her back now." And she said, "Well, give me cash." So I gave you cash. And she didn't trust banks. She kept her money under her mattress. So they said, "Well, that's too much. We can't allow you to take that much out." He said, "How can you not allow me? It's my money. It's my bank account." He said, "Well, we'll let you have $3,000. And so they finally allowed him to have $3,000. Then it took him several more months to get the $9,000. Now, he was a little guy.
Right.
How about a big guy? Okay, a big hedge fund. This is an international hedge fund. They had their money in the Swiss National Bank. And in Europe, as you know, they have started charging people to keep money in the bank. Here we're not quite there. We're paying like 1/4%. So nominally we're giving people interest, but when you consider inflation at 4 and 5% a year, you're getting 1/4%. You're losing money every year. So the reasons why we used to keep money in the bank to keep it safe they're long gone, because it's not safe in the bank. It's losing money. I tell people, if you put your money in the bank of inflation, your regular commercial banks, you're losing money every year. If you put your money in the bank of gold, as the dollar goes down, it takes more dollars to buy the same amount of gold. So at least the bank of gold keeps you even with inflation, right? So they say, "Well, where's the bank of gold?" I said, "What's your address?" "That's the bank of gold." "Well, where's the vault?" I said, "Do you have a safe?" That's the vault of the bank of gold. But it's gotten much worse in most of European countries. Now they're charging you interest to keep money in the bank. Okay, we're charging you to keep your money safe. So this one big hedge fund that had to keep a lot of money on hand, not necessarily cash, but money on hand to make big buys when big opportunities came along. Well, he calculated how much it was costing him in francs just to have the money sitting there, millions and millions of dollars. And he figured out that he could just buy an old bank that's got a vault in it. And even with security guards and everything, it would be cheaper than what the bank was charging him.
Wow.
So just a good business decision, right? So he goes to the bank and he says, I'm going to take my money out. And they said, no, you can't. He said, yeah, I can. It's a demand account. It's my money. I can take it out. And they said, no, this is the Swiss National Bank. It's like our Fed. They said it would interfere with the bank's policy guidelines and goals. That's the reason he was given. And he said, well, I don't care about your policies. I don't care about your goals. I want my money. And so they said, well, we'll try to find a solution. And after a couple of weeks, they came back to him and said, sorry, there's no solution. There's no way that you can take this money out. So more and more banks are becoming like the government. They're telling us what we can do with our own money. And so that's why more and more people are taking money out of the banks. I mean, but where do you put it? Okay, if you put it under your mattress, it's losing 4 or 5% a year to inflation. It's safer, arguably, than in the bank because, frankly, my local bank is not nearly as well protected as I am. I mean, my house and my office have far greater firepower than the 80-year-old security guard that doesn't even have a nightstick. I mean, somebody comes and tries to rob the bank. What's he going to do? Say boo, or maybe trip him or something? So it's not safer from robbery. You know, it's not safer from inflation. So for a quarter or half a percent.
I haven't seen a lot of security guards in banks of late, and I think that's partially because they don't keep a lot of cash.
Yeah. Well, I tried to cash a check yet. It wasn't very big, a few $1,000. And they said, well, we can only give you half of that. I said, what do you mean? I mean, the check's for this much. You're going to give me half? No. We'll deposit in your personal account, and then you can withdraw half of that in cash. I said, well, the guy I didn't tell him my business, but what I was going to buy, the guy wanted cash for it. And so I said, just forget it, give back the check. And their excuse was they didn't get their cash delivery that day. And this was a Friday. I said, well, will you have it on Monday? Well, we're not sure if it's coming in Monday or Tuesday, but you can give us a call, and if we've got the cash, you can come back and cash your check. So a bank without cash, there's a concept for you.
Right, exactly.
Now, how about this one? I wrote an article a few weeks back. If somebody's interested, go to conservativetruth.com and go in the archives. And I think the title was something like, the China virus is a dream come true for Democrats, which sounds a little crazy. But if you think about it, what are their goals? Well, one of them is suppress religion. I mean, it's not that there's not Christian Democrats. Okay, I'm not saying that, but you can be a Christian and be a Democrat, but you can't be a good Democrat if you're a Christian, because if you look at their party platform, it goes against the Word of God in just about every major area. So they're anti-religion. They're anti-patriotism. When I was driving around town, I don't know how it is where you live, but all the signs, all the yards had Trump signs in them. The people were flying American flags. I didn't see a single American flag in at a house where they had the Biden signs. After 9/11, in all the Democrat cities, the firemen, firefighters and cops tend to be pretty patriotic, right? So they were putting American flags in the back of their fire trucks. The Democrat cities made them take it off because it was considered offensive to some people. So, I mean, you can't get any crazier than that. Okay, here it is. The article was published on October 19th, and it was called 2020 and the China virus had been a dream come true for Democrats. Just a few of the things that have made 2020 a blessing for them. They want a docile, sheep-like populace that will obey the government without question. Okay. Remember, the job of government is to keep us safe, but the goal of most government is to control us. And they want sheep. They don't want people. They want sheeple. They want to take over the entire healthcare system. Well, the virus is going to move them heavily towards that because most of the cost of treating the virus have been borne by the federal government, not by the state governments. So that's another step in controlling a full sixth of the economy. That's what the healthcare system is. Preventing Americans from assembling and planning ways to protect the nation. What do the Democrats hate worse than anything else? Trump rallies. I mean, same thing when Hillary was running. She wouldn't allow the cameras to be focused on anything except herself. They couldn't look at the audience because there was like 15 people or 200 people there. Trump was always saying to the news media, hey, put the cameras out there, let people see what's going on.
Right.
Because there'd be 10,000 people there, right? So they don't want that. Well, the virus has really helped them, except when it's in their interest. Like the mayor of Chicago has canceled Thanksgiving. The governor of California has just said, well, you can't have Thanksgiving with more than 2 or 3 guests or whatever. Can't be more than 2 hours. It has to be outside.
After he got busted with this dinner that he went to the other night in the French Laundry restaurant in California.
Yeah. What is it, $200 a plate there or something like that? And they're all sitting around the table close with each other. And, so this Mayor Lightfoot of Chicago who canceled Thanksgiving, she didn't just say you can't have people over. She said Thanksgiving is not going to happen. Just a few days before that, she's out there celebrating Biden's supposed victory, and in the middle of a crowd, not wearing a mask, talking on a bullhorn, and people all around her. But it's okay when they want to have a protest or an assembly or even a riot. Riots are okay with them. Censorship of patriotic speech using media and social media platforms that they control. Trump won the election, okay, but between the fraud that went on and the big social media companies, it looks entirely different. Even without the fraud, they probably could have, beaten him just by the fact that they closed down the accounts or censored the accounts of Christians and conservatives. And they were on the hot seat the other day in front of Congress. I don't know if you saw this, They said, well, we do that with anybody who has hate speech or false speech. Well, how did they know if it's false? I mean, Trump said they were tapping him during the primaries and during the campaigning, and everybody said, "Oh, he's crazy. He's another conspiracy and stuff." And of course, later on, the FBI admitted that yes, that he had been being tapped because they were doing this whole fake Russian thing. So they want to censor patriotic speech. So we're seeing Google and Twitter in particular closing people's accounts down or putting warning labels on them. And they said just the other day that once Trump's not president anymore, they'll, if he says anything that they consider to not be true, they'll shut down his account. Okay. So they had a big influence on this election because they allowed the Democrats and the liberals and the socialists to advertise all they want to say anything they wanted to, but they wouldn't take ads in many cases from conservative campaigns and so on. So that's been another way that the virus has been really popular with them. Population control, just like the Communist Chinese, the Democrat Party, look at their platform. They think there's too many people. Okay. The earth can't sustain all the people, and so we have to limit the number of people. In China, they said you're only allowed to have one baby. Here, we just kill the babies, and they want the taxpayer to pay for it.
Well, China's now reversed that. In fact, they incentivize because they realized they had a diminishing work population. So now they're incentivized to have 2 kids or more. I don't know.
You're right.
That's
the one-child policy was something that was in effect for about 30 years,
right?
And now they've reversed it because they realized the problem isn't the number of people who are being born, but the old people who are no longer productive. I mean, just like Hitler used to kill off, people who were crippled or mentally defective or gypsies, and of course Jewish. They're defective just because he hated them, and so China has realized that their problem is with the elderly people that they can't support and they can't make money anymore. So there's a growing consensus that the China virus, which they claim just sort of spontaneously erupted from bats or pigs or something like that, people that have studied it say it was definitely an engineered virus. So if that's the case, why does it just kill old people and it doesn't kill babies and toddlers? Because the regular coronavirus, the flu, pandemic A, pandemic B, they're both coronaviruses, just like the China virus is. Why does it not kill them? Well, it's because it was engineered to kill old people. And they could get rid of a lot of their population. You got to remember, the Chinese government, they have no morals whatsoever. I've talked to missionaries who were there when so many people were dying, and China was claiming, oh, they got control of it now. There's no more people being infected. They said they had incinerators going 24 hours a day, burning bodies up, just like they did at Tiananmen Square. They killed tens of thousands of people, but the bodies just disappeared. The parents, the people that protested there, they never saw their children again. The virus has made it easier for them to commit election fraud, because nobody can tell me that mailing out millions of ballots, not even knowing if the people still live where they did, mailing 2 ballots, which they did in most states, to a home where there was 1 registered voter, that's not an invitation to election fraud. Nevada changed their laws just before the accounting. And you never change, you can't change the laws, the rules regarding election just before an election. But they did, and they said there was complaints that they weren't allowing signatures to be compared to verify that the mail-in votes were real. Well, they said, okay, we'll allow the signatures to be compared to the application. So the person who sent in the application to get the mail-in ballot, they would compare the signature that was on it when it came in, but not with the one on the voter rolls. And they've proved that thousands and thousands of those are different. So it's like the forger comparing the ballots compared with the signature of the guy that forged in the first place, but not with the person who's supposed to be voting, who in many cases had moved out of the state or was dead. So that helped them eliminating or perverting our Constitution. They want so badly to get rid of the Electoral College, because if they do, there will never again be a Christian or a conservative in the White House, because California and New York will decide every election. If this happens, and I anticipate that it will, if the Harris-Biden ticket gets elected, then the Electoral College is gone, and the only way to save the country will be to send missionaries to California and New York. And by that I mean sending Christians and saying, you know, any missionary has to sacrifice, right?
Right.
It would be a sacrifice to go and live in a liberal bastion like those two states. But California is not that heavily Democrat. We always think of it that way because they always win because they have the big cities. But there's only those 6 counties that are heavily Democrat. Most of California votes Republican. So if, you know, maybe a few 100,000 Christians would make that sacrifice and move to California and register there, then we could turn that state back to what it always was. I mean, Ronald Reagan was the governor of California. Was he conservative then? Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yeah. You know, so it can be turned around. Suppressing religion. I mean, look what they're doing. They're saying you can't go to church, and right. Then if you do, you can only have 50 people. And by the way, if you can't sing, but yet they'll let people go out in the streets and shout and scream, which probably spreads a lot farther than most people singing. So anyway, it's been a gift. It's an interesting article. I'm not saying that because I wrote it, but just check it out. How the virus has benefited the Democrat Party. So back to the war on cash, because I've got just a few minutes left here.
Quite a few comments today too, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, good. I love comments. We're heading to the place where, if what I anticipate is as happening happens, where they get it down to these, three, the 3 big institutions that control all the money, and then they consolidate those 3. They'll come up with some kind of emergency to make it necessary to put them into one. And you got one national bank, one national insurance company, and one national IRA custodian. How hard would it be to then confiscate all the IRAs and roll them into the black hole of Social Security? Okay, how hard would it be for them to say, oh no, you can't drive a gas car because it's more dangerous. You have to drive an electric car. How hard would it be for them to say, you can't spend more than such and such per day or per week or whatever if they control all the banks? So eventually everything that you do financially, every penny you make will go into one account, and every penny you spend will come out of that account, probably with a card. And then, now remember, it's not a conspiracy theory if it's true. Okay.
Right. Right.
Even if it sounds like a conspiracy theory. I did an article on that just last week. Check it out. But we know what Revelation says, the book of Revelation. It says that you won't be able to buy or sell unless you have the mark.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's the mark? 666. I don't think that we're going to have 666 stamped on people's foreheads. Okay. I think that 666 stands for an 18-digit number because the mathematicians have calculated that they have a Social Security type number, a personal ID number for every person on Earth and every person that's likely to ever be born. It would have to take 18 digits. And 3 groups of 6 are because the average person can't remember a string more than 7 numbers reliably. That's why telephone numbers are 7 digits. They used to be 6, by the way. So 666 is the number, really.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bible says it'd be in the hand of the forehead. Well, if you put a little chip under somebody's skin, how hard is it to run that under a scanner? So I believe all of this is preparation for the time when, if you don't take the mark, they can just shut off your account. They'll tell you that the card is not secure, although they've been pushing it for years. Now it's not secure because somebody can steal your card. So, we've been implanting chips in your dogs for years, and that hasn't hurt. A lot of really, really stupid Americans are allowing them to put chips in their babies. You know that's happening right now?
Is it?
Okay. Yeah, it's actually happening. Look it up. It's amazing. They say, well, it's in case they're kidnapped, then we can track them. Well, unless that chip is emitting a signal, you can't track it. So bottom line is that eventually they'll say, well, the card is not really a good thing anymore, so therefore we have to put the chip in, and then all is lost. And this is where it's all heading. But in the meantime, long before any of that happens, you've lost every shred of privacy that you have. So gold, and to a lesser extent cash, mean you still have some freedom. But just like this guy that had the big hedge fund, he had to put the money someplace, right?
Right.
And it was costing him too much to have it in the bank, so he just wanted to have his own bank and save a lot of money, but it would have still had to been cash. Now, what he should have done was just wired money periodically and bought gold, and then you store gold anywhere you want to. It's a lot easier. But gold is freedom, and banks are becoming more and more an arm of the government. So let's hear the comments.
Well, Tim had said, I heard something about a Fed appointee that wants to get the USD back on the gold standard. I think this is a new Fed appointee that has not been confirmed yet. And then he sent a link to that. And then Jack...
Yeah, they voted her down.
Oh, they voted her down.
Comment. Yeah, they voted her down, but Mitch McConnell kept it open because there were several people that were quarantined and weren't there for the vote. So he's still hoping to get it through. But remember, I've been talking for the last 4 years about if Trump gets a second term, he's going to put us on the gold standard. He's been making some very broad hints about that for years. And so this is another sign, whether she gets appointed or not, his intention is to have someone on the Fed who's in favor of the gold standard. Okay.
Jack had commented, intangible assets currently account for 90% of the index's total assets. This includes research and development, intellectual property, and computerized information such as data and software. today intangibles are worth over $21 trillion.
Right. And which index is he talking about? The S&P 500?
I think he was talking about all the indexes, the major four: S&P, Dow, Russell, NQ. He didn't specify.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me at all. The thing is that if the dollar crashes, you wouldn't be able to monetize or to use any of that because the dollar would be basically worthless. And again, people say, well, that's not possible. But the fact is that almost every country in the world at some time or another has had their currency collapse. Happened twice to Germany, happened 4 times to France. Their currency became completely worthless, and the merchants wouldn't accept paper money of any kind. They would only accept specie, gold or silver. And the other important part of that is that every currency collapse, at least every one that I've been able to find and study, has been precipitated by a debt collapse. Now in 2008, we saw a stock market collapse or crash or whatever you want to call it. We saw a real estate collapse, a mortgage collapse. The dollar didn't collapse, okay, because our debt didn't fail. But in the past, we have actually had the U.S., people don't remember this, but we actually had all 3 of the major rating agencies downgrade the U.S. debt from AAA.
Yeah, it was a big surprise, and then it just got shrugged off. Nobody paid any attention.
Well, they scammed it. Somebody got paid off. I mean, but they actually lowered it, and I would have thought that would have been impossible. So, bottom line is, we owe more money than any nation that's ever existed on the planet, and to think that we are somehow immune when other societies, modern economies, have had complete debt collapses, I think it's kind of arrogant. I'll be speaking in different conferences, so when people say, well, that can't happen here, I say, why not? They said, well, this is the United States. I say, well, what else you have?
Yeah.
Because it has happened, and it will happen. Most people don't know we already had a complete currency collapse in this country, where the dollar became worth 1/10 of a penny. That was our first dollar, and it's called the Continental Dollar, and that was runaway hyperinflation. During Jimmy Carter, we had hyperinflation. It wasn't runaway, so it kind of crawled up on us gradually to where we didn't notice it until one day we look and we're paying 16-17% for mortgages, and CDs are paying 18 and 19% interest. You say, what in the world is going on? Well, what are mortgages today? 3%, 3.5%.
Yeah.
CDs, a point if you're lucky. But that's definitely hyperinflation. Anything that's double digit is hyperinflation. But the big one's coming, and it will happen when the debt collapses. And here's how the debt collapses. People keep telling me, well, the U.S. can just keep on printing money. No, they can't. And it seems like it. They've kept on printing money.
Right.
But there's 2 things that will limit that. Number one is you can't print money. Before our money was backed by gold, so you weren't allowed to print money unless gold backed it.
Right.
What is it backed by now? People say it's backed by nothing, and technically that's true, but actually it's backed by debt. Okay? So to put a fine point on it, if by some miracle we paid off our national debt tomorrow, the money in your wallet would be worthless because it's a debt instrument, right?
Right.
That's not going to happen, so nothing to worry about. But if we get to the place where no one buys our treasuries anymore, we can't issue any more money. That's that's one limiting factor. The other is if China accomplishes what they're trying to accomplish, which is backing their currency with gold, I've mentioned this before, then they instantly become the world reserve currency.
Mm-hmm.
We are no longer the world reserve currency.
No,
And the only
they could be a contender as well.
What's that?
I say Russia could be a contender as well for backing their currency with gold.
They've been buying a lot of gold, and also they have huge oil reserves in Russia.
Oh, and they just discovered. They just announced the largest gold discovery. They think they have the largest untapped gold reserve. I'm trying to remember where it was exactly that they found it, but it's in the news.
Wow. Probably in Siberia.
I think that's exactly. I think that's exactly where it was.
Now that's where a lot of their oil is as well. So if that happens, then we can't keep on printing money. So what does that mean? Well, for the last 30 years, we haven't paid a penny on the principal of the national debt. We're only barely paying the interest. And 18% of all the revenues in the United States go just to interest. So what if the interest rates rose even a couple of points? Then we wouldn't even be able to pay the interest because everything else is spoken for. You can't, there's only so much money you can take away from the military. You can't take money away from Social Security, or all the old people will riot and you know, it'll be bad. They're the ones that vote, remember. So 18% is like the max, and now we're adding even more to the national debt. And so that's going to make the paying the interest much more difficult. And if interest rates go up, then that's all she wrote. So eventually the debt collapses. I don't think it's going to be really all a bad thing, because it's just like a forest fire. You know, there's a reason why the Lord sends lightning and starts forest fires every once in a while. It's because it burns out all the dead branches and the undergrowth, so that if a fire happens, it doesn't destroy the forest. Look what's happening out west, where the environmentalists have refused to allow firefighters to let controlled burns happen, and to let a small forest fire burn until it gets all the underbrush out. Now there's places where they'll have dead stuff stacked up 4, 5, and 6 feet high, and when a forest fire starts there, then it destroys the forest. So I think that, just like in the stock market, sometimes you have to have a crash to clean out the dead wood.
Right.
Well, it's the same with an economy, and again, history proves that. So we'll emerge stronger, and we will probably, if we're not already on the gold standard by then, we will force the government to go back to sound money, but it will be painful while it's happening. And so the people who are protected, we haven't mentioned CFRNGold.com. If you go to CFRNGold.com and you're not familiar with gold and you want to listen more about it, a lot of great educational material there. Or you can call me at 561-753-5998. 561-753-5998. Gold is the great protector. Okay.
Yeah, indeed. CFRN Gold, one word, .com. Natalka went on to say, and she also had a comment, I hate to say it, but I worked for the most corrupt industry, the banking industry. 68 to 74, when we didn't have computers. We knew our customers by name, had time to chat. But now we have computers and don't know the customers. We line up like cattle to be branded. Service fees have skyrocketed. Banks are making record profits, which is never enough for worse service, so the bosses can get their $20 to $50 million bonuses. People are upset with that, but most people will invest in the stocks of the banks because the banks make money. I, for one, will never invest in crooked businesses regardless of how much money I can make.
Who was that said that? That works
Natalka. And she went on to say, if people
Natalka.
really would know how banks work, they would revolt. I would have practically all the banks shut down, as they would not be able to compete with the bank that is run not by greed, but by necessity. Number one lie is that almost all people believe that the banks lend our money out. It is illegal for them to do that, and have never lent out $1 of depositors' money. What person, when they deposit their money in the bank, says, hey, you can lend my money out? That is ludicrous, but yet most people think that banks do that.
Well,
And then she said banks do not
I would
lend out
appreciate if you.
depositors' money. People, do your
That's
homework
right.
and find out what money is, what is its function, where it comes from, and who controls it. Without that knowledge, we are doomed. We're slaves to the money system because we don't know the answers to the 4 questions mentioned before. Jack had said they don't keep security guards at the banks anymore because the money is worthless.
Let me just address Natalka for a second, if you don't mind. Natalka, I would appreciate it if maybe tomorrow, I'm pretty much tied up today, but if you would call me at 561-753-5998, because I'd like to ask you a few questions and maybe interview you on my radio program that I do once a week. You can do it anonymously if you don't want your bank to know what your opinion of them is. But I talk to bankers all the time, and most of them have no clue. I'm talking about managers of banks, and I say, do you know that the money that you're taking as deposits doesn't belong to the people anymore? As soon as you take that deposit, that it becomes property of the bank. He said, no, it doesn't. I said, read the agreement. I'm probably one of 12 people in the United States that's actually read the agreement that they signed with the bank. And the fact is, since 2012, the money that you deposit in the bank becomes an asset of the bank. It's on their balance sheet. And that's audited by the Fed and by the IRS. So bottom line is, when you deposit, you're loaning the money to the bank. You think that you're depositing your money in your account, but that's why they can do some of the things I described today, refuse to give you back your own money, because it's not your money, it's their money. It's a loan, and it shows on their balance sheet as a asset of theirs, your money, and then the same money on the other side of the sheet shows as a liability, that they owe you that money. It's a loan. And I'm talking about bank managers, guys who've been in the business 30 years. They don't have a clue. They don't know about the gold confiscation in 1933. They don't know about how the Federal Reserve was illegally founded. And they think, and we're talking bank professionals, they think that the Federal Reserve is owned and operated by the federal government.
Right.
I mean, the ignorance out there is just amazing. So I would love to talk to you and talk if you wouldn't mind.
Well, hopefully she'll give you a call. She's got your number. James said 70% of all cash is stored outside of the U.S. When the euro goes digital, the dollar will follow. Hopefully gold will still be a private asset. All debt will be defaulted on in Europe. That's from James.
You got a lot of conspiracy theorists on your show, buddy.
Jack says the Bible says 666, number of man. Carbon, the basic building blocks, 6 oxygen, 6 hydrogen, 6 nitrogen. Talks about
I didn't realize
the
that.
difference between printing and creating. Money's not created or printed for interest, so no one needs to note that interest eats up all the money supply.
Yeah. If by some miracle the national debt was paid off tomorrow, the way the system is set up with the Federal Reserve, like he says, it's not really printed. Most of it is all digital. So we're really already on digital money.
Yeah.
Because the vast majority of money that changes hands is digital. But if we did somehow pay off the national debt, the next day we'd be at debt again because we have done something unconstitutional. We've allowed a private company to produce our money and then lend it to the government and charge interest on it. So we'd start being in debt the next day, very next day.
Yep. Okay.
Well, I hate to depress everybody.
I know you gotta go. But it's been a great conversation. Appreciate it.
I hope I haven't depressed everybody, but there is hope. Okay, number one, if you're a Christian, the Bible says, "I've never seen the righteous forsaken nor a seed begging for bread," and so He's going to take care of you no matter what happens. And number two, there is a solution. I don't ever like to talk about a problem without talking about a solution. And the solution, again, God gave it to us. He said, "The silver is mine and the gold is mine," says the Lord of hosts. And if you study in the Bible where it says God says something is His, what it means is that it's for His use. It's for His purposes. So I believe He gave us silver and gold to give us economies that couldn't be manipulated. And for 157 years, we had no inflation in this country when we were on a gold standard. Since then, the dollar's lost 96%, and it's worth 4 cents in 1933 terms. So there is a solution. Okay?
All right, Dr.
God bless
Tom.
you guys.
Thank you so much.
Wayne,
Enjoyed it.
Thanks for letting me hang out with you.
All right, man. We
Talk to you later.
appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, guys, S&P still printing that daily doji. Not a lot of movement over the last couple of hours. And we are out of time. So let's go to our good word for the day. Be ready to receive. John 16:24 says, "Ask and you will receive, that your joy may be full." The Bible doesn't tell us how long the lame man in Acts chapter 3 had sat begging at the temple gate, but it was a daily occurrence. When he saw Peter and John, the odds are he wasn't expecting anything. It was just another day trying to survive. And Peter said, "Silver and gold I do not have, but what I do have, I give you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, rise up and walk." And we all know what happened next. He, leaping up, stood and walked and entered the temple with them, walking, leaping, and praising God. Acts 3:8. There's an important lesson here. God has set times for doing certain things. He has a calendar, and your name is on it. Psalm 102, "For the time to favor her or him, the set time has come." If you're not spiritually attuned, you can miss your set time and forfeit what God has for you. That means you must learn to live in expectation, because God's blessings are either coming towards you or passing you by. Miracles happen to those who believe in them, ask for them, expect them, and receive them. The enemy will try to keep you so preoccupied, cynical, and hopeless that when God sends the answer you prayed for, you won't recognize it, reach it, or receive it. Jesus said, "Whatever you ask the Father in my name, He will give you." Until now, you've asked nothing in my name. Ask and you will receive, that your joy may be full. John 16:23 and 24. So be ready to receive. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.